For as long as I've talked about Smash on this channel, one thing has been made clear over the years. Doom Slayer is my most wanted Smash newcomer. He's constantly shown up whenever I talk about Smash. I got to see Sakurai acknowledge Doom in the form of his Mii Gunner costume, and my original moveset for him still stands as my most viewed video of all time. There's just one problem. The video kinda sucks. I mean, I'm glad people liked it well enough, but considering how detailed my moveset videos have become, it's not the best moveset I could have made, and it's not the best video to showcase this channel. I really only had experience with Doom 2016 when I made the moveset, which I think is very clear, and my understanding of Doom has deepened greatly since then. My understanding of Smash has too. I don't even call dash attack running A anymore, thank God. My point is, now that we really seriously need to consider Doom Slayer getting into Smash, my original video is hopelessly outdated and in need of an upgrade. With the recent release of Doom the Dark Ages and the Nintendo Switch 2, there's no better time to revisit my favorite Space Marine and show you why he deserves to be in the next Smash as a proper newcomer. I always start these videos discussing the character's legacy, where they came from, and the impact they've had over the years. With Doom, I gotta say it feels a little unnecessary at this point, but I'll let Sakurai himself kick it off.
原作についてはここでご紹介することができませんが、 FPS の始祖ですね。どんなコンピューター上でも動くとか動かないとか。
The original Doom was released on December 10th, 1993. Starting out on DOS primarily as shareware, it was a massive success and has since become playable on basically anything. You play as an unnamed Space Marine, dubbed Doom Guy or Doom Marine by fans, who winds up having to battle against legions of demons due to military experimentation. Things only get worse for the Marine from there. He kills the demons in space, returns to Earth to find it decimated by Hell's invasion, fends them off to save humanity, and is eventually trapped in Hell killing demons for eternity. That takes us through the elder installments such as Doom 2 in 94 and Doom 64 in 97, as well as less relevant games like Final Doom in 96 and Doom 3 in 2004. At this point we enter a much more complex backstory under Bethesda's ownership, with Doom 2016, Doom Eternal in 2020, and Doom the Dark Ages in 2025, creating epic multi-dimensional wars in which the Marine is filled with godlike power and endless rage, properly ascending him to the canon title Doom Slayer. Besides the obvious first-person perspective, Doom is famous for a few core tenets. First is maze-like map design that places emphasis on finding keys or clearing rooms of enemies to progress. More importantly though, Doom's combat is all about running and gunning. Matching its focus on gore and intense violence, the games encourage players to face problems head-on rather than hide behind cover or wait to heal. With expansive arsenals containing shotguns, rifles, explosives, and high-tech firepower, you bob and weave through hordes of enemies until you're the last one standing. Doom's importance to the gaming industry cannot be understated. It is the reason the first-person shooter genre exists as it does today. It revolutionized gaming at large in terms of graphics and networking, and sparked massive controversy in its presentation and themes. Despite losing its ground a little in the middle of the franchise's life, the past decade's revival has solidified Doom as a pillar of gaming for both new and old players. And as for Doom Slayer himself, while he didn't quite have star power the same way other protagonists do for a while, the recent chapters of his story have ensured he's a fully fledged character and a face of gaming. Enough to get into Smash as a Mii costume, and maybe, just maybe, something more. But forget about Mii costumes. How would Doom Slayer actually appear in Smash as a challenger? Starting with his stats, the most crucial thing to keep in mind is that movement I talked about. Doom Slayer should always be on the move, strafing around enemies at high speeds. His walk and run speeds would actually be nearly identical to really convert his intensity into Smash, with his initial dash feeling more like the short burst of his dash introduced in Doom Eternal. This speed makes him one of the faster characters in the game, and combined with moves I'll discuss later, this makes Doom Slayer essentially a rushdown zoner, closing space quickly to attack from mid-range. Now, a character attacking you from a safe distance at Mach speed might become a little broken, so the rest of the Slayer stats even him out. For one, his weight is middle of the pack, meaning he's not too hard to knock around. More importantly, Doom Slayer isn't made to be airborne. While Doom Eternal has him moving through the air frequently, the roots of the character are rooted to the ground. His full hop is one of the worst in the game, and his total jump height with double jump just barely doesn't make it through the top platform. He also has a slow fall and bad airspeed. As Doom Slayer, you want to keep your enemies in front of you and keep moving. Fighting against Doom Slayer, your goal should be spacing, getting him off stage, and attacking his blind spots, especially underneath him. Now to make the look match the feel. For Doom Slayer's palette swaps, I think it's important to represent both his iconic original appearance and his modern incarnation. Therefore, those will be his two main looks, Doom Slayer and Doom Marine, though the name will always be Doom Slayer. This is especially easy considering recent reimaginings of that classic outfit, and Doom Eternal will serve as the basis for both armor sets. For the Slayer armor, his three alternate colors will be metallic blue to reference some appearances of the Doom 2 Marine, orange to represent Phobos from Quake, and white to reference Samuel Hayden. For the Marine armor, I pulled straight from the original Doom's multiplayer colors, as revived in Eternal: red, yellow, and indigo/black. The brown-yellow alt also references Ranger from Quake. I actually deliberated with these skins a lot because I really wanted the Slayer armor to have a hellish red alt like the Crimson or Blood Slayer skins. It also felt a little more fitting to give the Doom 2 coloring to the Marine armor. However, it felt silly to break up the original Marine colors, and I guess Eternal is kind of a take on Doom 2, so 2's Marine color works well enough for the Slayer. I also really wanted a black Ember skin for the Slayer, but again, black made more sense for the Marine. I don't know, there were a lot of options. Let me know what you think. Doom Slayer's stage entrance would have him walk in through a glowing dark red portal brimming with flame. His idle animation has him lower his gun a little and lean forward, prepping for attack. For his taunts, up taunt has the Slayer pump his combat shotgun, side taunt has him hold his gun in one hand as he clenches the other, glowing with argent energy, and down taunt has him briefly pull out the crucible and stand intimidatingly, not dissimilar to Ganondorf's taunt. And for his victory screens, the first pans up a rocky hill surrounded by fire, ending with Doom Slayer on top, mimicking his Doom 1993 artwork. The second starts in first person as the Slayer pulls the shotgun out, panning out to third person for a close-up on his helmet and shotgun pump into a wide shot and blast, and the third pulls from this promotional shot, ending with the Slayer holding the crucible. It's time to dig back into Doom Slayer's moveset potential. As I said at the top, when I made my original moveset, I was really only working off of Doom 2016, and wasn't remotely as aware of Doom as a franchise. Now, with proper playtime of the original games and the added insights of Doom Eternal, I feel confident that I can propose a plausible, faithful moveset. I also feel it's important to make two things clear. One, as Doom Slayer is the first-person shooter rep, guns should be the main part of the moveset. I don't intend to give him many physical attacks because it's just not necessary. And two, those guns will be spread out throughout the moveset. Since the beginning, I felt that an ammo mechanic or a weapon switching mechanic wasn't needed when it came to Doom Slayer, as the fast pace of the Doom series makes every weapon feel like a fluid part of his design. When looking at the series, there are some weapons that have been around since the beginning, and those should clearly be a focal point of his Smash arsenal to unite the new and old. To start off, his jab will be a blast from the combat shotgun. For the most part, if you're starting out in a Doom game, this is your go-to. This is a single strong blast that establishes Doom Slayer's primary range, with consecutive shots not being too far apart and primarily racking up damage, while possibly killing at higher percentage. F-tilde Nair will also share this exact same move, allowing him mobility while firing like Mega Man. His other two tilts are filled out by his Eternal equipment: a frag grenade for up tilt, which launches at an upwards diagonal, bounces a very short distance on the ground, and explodes either after a short time or on contact, and the flame belch for down tilt, a quick burst of flame with only a little hit stun but dealing consistent fire damage for a short time after the initial hit. For his dash attack, the Slayer unleashes a meaty Blood Punch, a strong burst option that works especially well with his initial dash speed. For his other aerials, back air shares the combat shotgun, but this time firing a quick 4-round blast with the full auto mod. This move is shorter range than his usual shotgun blast, but has much better kill potential. His forward and up airs use the heavy cannon. Think of both as pretty similar to Mii Gunner's up air. Consistent streams of fire with some extra range, allowing for some late stock kills at farther range and further managing your spacing. And down air pulls out some heavy artillery with the Gauss cannon. You could swap it for the ballista if you really wanted. This move has a slow startup but sends out a deadly laser downwards, with solid range making it a little more dangerous to attack the Slayer's weak spot. However, the reason this move is here is because firing the cannon also gives Doom Slayer a sizable boost upwards, helping his lacking air mobility and recovery. I also considered giving Doom Slayer his Eternal dash in the air as a triple jump, but I'm not sure if it's really necessary, maybe if balancing deemed it so. For his grab, he starts out with the basic one-hand grab and brutal punches for his pummel. As for throws, this is where we represent the Slayer's primary physical attacks, glory kills. There's a wide array of glory kill animations to choose from, so I just picked a few. In general, none of these are effective kill moves, but their final blows can really tack on damage. His forward throw is 2 slashes with his arm-mounted Doom Blade, cutting in and out, dealing the most damage of the throws and having the second farthest distance. Up throw is a sweep kick and bringing them down onto his knee, sending them upwards. Back throw has the Slayer chokeslam the enemy onto the ground behind him and send them away with a big kick, throwing at a low angle and being his farthest throw. And down throw puts the enemy on the ground to finish them off with a 2-foot stomp, also sending them out at a low angle. Now for his smash attacks, we get back to pulling from his staple weaponry, starting with F Smash's chain gun. With the charging animation showing the barrel spinning, Doomslayer unleashes a volley of farther range shots, being able to slowly walk while firing by tapping A and ending with a pretty strong finishing blow. Down smash is another staple and his strongest smash attack, the chainsaw. Revving it above his head and bringing it down, it would keep close by enemies in place as it racks up damage before sending them upwards with a powerful killing blow. And for up smash, we step away from his traditional tools and pull from another weapon mod, this time being the heavy cannon's micro missiles. This would send a volley of small missiles out in a cone above the Slayer with a series of strong explosions that help him cover his angles. I will put another caveat here that I think this move could be replaced by the new Skull Crusher from Dark Ages, acting similarly with a cone of damage firing from the Slayer. Now for his specials, and obviously this is where we'll round off his most iconic gear and a more recent staple. His neutral special is the Super Shotgun. Unlike the combat shotgun, this is a very close range blast but packs an extremely deadly Falcon Punch-like burst into a short startup. Someone made the point to me a long time ago that Kirby getting anything but the Super Shotgun from Doom Slayer felt wrong, and I couldn't agree more. Side special uses the rocket launcher, his best long range option, sending out a quick, dangerous explosive in a straight line. Both this move and the Super Shotgun would have notable end lag. Up special is that modern staple I talked about, being the meat hook. Working similarly to Byleth, this move latches you onto an enemy and brings you towards them, at which point you can decide to attack with the Super Shotgun Blast or just keep moving. To keep air movement as his weak spot though, the vertical range at which the meat hook will adjust to lock onto an enemy or the stage is very limited, for the most part firing out in a straight line from the Slayer. It'll save you if you're recovering from higher up, but from stage height or lower off stage you'll really have to be careful, using your Gauss jump and possible triple jump dash to get back to safety. Oh, and while I'm discussing recovery, I think his ledge animation would be pulling from the platforming of Eternal, and his getup would be a Doomblade slash, though it would be easy to short hop nair from ledge. Lastly, his down smash would pull out the plasma rifle. By continuously tapping B, you'll fire a high damage stream with no stopping power or knockback. Great for pressuring shields. By holding down B, you'll charge and fire a stun bomb, freezing enemies in place. And for Doomslayer's final smash, I mean, come on, it hasn't changed since the first time around. It's the BFG 9000. A massive green energy blast that travels the stage, latching onto enemies with its tendrils before erupting in a vicious explosion that sends enemies to their doom. And that is my new and improved moveset for Doom Slayer. It certainly addresses some misrepresentations from the original, like a minimized focus on his shotguns, while utilizing the gamier elements of Eternal and sticking to his core arsenal. This makes him a unique gunner on the Smash roster, completely reliant on his weaponry and movement speed to get the job done. But we're not done our job yet, as there's still much that the Doom franchise could bring to Smash to consider. Now, it's been a while since I've done a moveset video, so I'll say the same disclaimer I did in my Ravenbeak moveset. My approach to this section and to this moveset as a whole is going off of the template set forth by Smash Ultimate, and assuming the Smash series will stay on the same general course. Obviously, he would have things like music and a stage, but things like spirits, Mii costumes, and assist trophies are up in the air. But I'm gonna do all of them because I think it's fun. If there's no spirits in the future, consider mine the top choices for trophies. To start with the Doom stage, we get into some tricky territory that was brought up in my Master Chief moveset when I compared him and the Slayer. Doom's iconography is inherently tied to a very bloody, very gory depiction of hell and its various minions. While I think a stage set in that landscape would be the best fit as a stage called Doom's Gate, and despite that being my stage of choice for many years, I have to acknowledge there's a very low chance of that happening. So instead, we're going with a stage simply called Mars. You could call it Mars Core if you wanted. This is set on the titular red planet and combines aesthetics of both the sci-fi UAC base and the invading underworld forces, neatly tying in both core aspects of the franchise. It would still have that hellish element while approaching it in a more diluted, plausible way. Aesthetically, think of it as a cross between the exterior segments of Doom 2016 and the Mars Core level of Eternal. And what you're seeing is a custom stage I made a long time ago that I thought would be a fun design, and I'm sticking to it. As for the music coming alongside the stage, Doom is famous for its music, both new and old, and it was really hard to narrow down the track list. In the end, I attempted to keep pre-2016 and post-2016 tracks somewhat even, though I still skewed heavily towards Mick Gordon's brilliant work. I also didn't include Dark Ages because I haven't played it. The new stuff doesn't really need remixes, and I think there's a charm to the original early tracks, so the only remixes I really picked out were At Doom's Gate, Sign of Evil, Facing the Spider, which I feel kinda needs it, and Into Sandy's City. I'd play all of the tracks for you right now, but I don't know how it'd go copyright-wise, and you'll hear plenty during the Spirits. And his victory theme would be the new interpretation of E1M1 as used at the start of the games. Doom Slayer's classic mode route is called Rip and Tear. You could give it the full title Rip and Tear until it is done, or call it The Only Thing They Fear. The theme of his classic mode is taking out all of Smash's bad guys once and for all. One option would be to basically do a boss rush, but I'll use the villains of Smash Ultimate's roster for now. I try to ascend in order of power and pure evil. Starting off, you take down Bowser and the Koopalings on Mushroomy Kingdom, followed by Wolf on Venom, King K. Rool on Congo Falls, Kazuya on Mishima Dojo, Sephiroth on Northern Cave, and Ridley and Dark Samus on Brinstar. The final battle would be the Ganon boss fight, best representing the normal kind of enemy Doomslayer faces. If you want it, you could probably replace Wolf or a third-party villain with Ganondorf and have the Slayer take out Master and Crazy Hand. For spirits, we can very easily pull from enemies and characters from the Doom franchise, but we start to run into the same issues as the Doom stage. Some of the designs, especially the fancy new ones, will not make it into Smash, though I can't say for certain where the line is. I'll include an old and new render where possible to hedge my bets. Anyway, here are my choices for Doom Spirits. And to touch on a few final things, I think the best Mii costumes would probably be a Soldier or Imp and a Hell Knight Brawler. And you know what, let's finally get that Kako Demon hat in here. If afforded the option of items or assist trophies, I think a Revenant assist trophy would be a shoo-in, flying around shooting rockets and clawing up close, or maybe a Kako Demon. The only item I could really see working easily would be a Berserk Orb, allowing anyone on the Smash roster to embody the rage of the Slayer. Alright, so now that we've fully explored everything that Doom could bring to Smash and why it deserves to be here, what are the actual odds of Doomslayer escaping his costumed prison? A lot has changed over the years, with Doomslayer kinda going from a joke pick to a legitimately highly requested fighter, high enough for Sakurai himself to notice. There's plenty of back-end things that lift Doomslayer up. His legacy stands toe-to-toe with the most iconic of icons on the roster, he lends to a unique moveset, Doom is still very relevant, and Microsoft and Bethesda have had a great relationship with Nintendo, and Smash in particular, getting multiple fighters in on Microsoft's side and multiple costumes on Bethesda's, including the Slayer. That's already a strong foot in the door over so many other characters. So then why didn't he get into Ultimate? Well, besides the timing of his rise in popularity and the Doom revival games, there's a lot of minutia that muddies the waters. To focus on smaller fish, while Microsoft does now own Doomslayer, they have their own green Space Marine mascot in Master Chief, and might be more willing to push for him to make it into the next Smash. That one's hard to say, since he isn't the one that got the costume last time. There's also potential issues stopping Doom's content from appearing in its fullest, specifically as it pertains to music. The companies and Mick Gordon, the composer of the last two games, had a massive falling out, and I don't really know how the the ownership of those tracks works. I kind of assume Bethesda, and now Microsoft, simply owns it all, and we did hear mixed music for the costume reveal, but again, it's something that could become an issue. But really, the main potential issue should be obvious. It's the entire theming, presentation, and attitude of Doom itself. See, the Slayer isn't that bad. Sure, he has guns, but Smash has those now, and a lot of his can be spruced up to look more sci-fi or ancient. And while what he does in the Doom games is excessively violent, I have never found that to be the deal breaker others claim it to be. Everything that every fighter in Smash does is violent. It's not the actions themselves that are important, it's the fact that what Doom Slayer punches bursts into blood and guts. If you take that away, it's just a normal punch and works just fine in Smash. However, as I alluded to earlier, bringing in any other kind of visual or thematic content from Doom immediately presents a hurdle. You'd have to skirt around a lot of horror elements, blood, gore, demonic imagery, and general religious elements. Do I think it can be done? Sure. It might not feel like the best outcome possible, but focus on the old sprites or edit the new renders, make some careful selections, and I think it could work. But do I think the legal team behind the scenes really wants to step up to that challenge when there's a plethora of viable candidates without those problems? Not really. Plus, we can't ignore the old chestnut of Japanese gamers traditionally not caring about the FPS genre. That whole side of things has a lot that goes into it, from console market share to cultural differences to sales histories and much more. So I'm really not trying to dive into all of that at the tail end of this video. The bottom line is, while the genre and franchise has its fans, Smash has always celebrated Japanese development first, and the list of fighters hailing from other countries is still quite limited. Again, multiple of those that did make it in present a point of entry for Doom Slayer. But if there are other Western genres and characters the Japanese audience cares about more, it really becomes a question of how much does Sakurai care about the Slayer's legacy and moveset potential. None of us truly have the answer to that, so it's really hard to say with any confidence what Doom Slayer's chances are for the next Smash game, setting aside the overall direction of that game. I think, considering the good and the bad, the best we got is 50-50. Will the strength of his history, new fighter archetype, and prior connections to Smash allow his entry, or will the demonic and violent bindings of the Doom franchise hold him back, with Eastern indifference being the killing blow? Only time will tell. That does it for my revisitation of my Doom Slayer moveset. Get in the comments and let me know what you think. What did you like? What did you change? Are you a Slayer supporter, or do you think he has no place on the roster? I don't really intend to redo any other old movesets, though depending on how Prime 4 goes, I could be swayed to check up on Sylex again. As a quick roundup of future projects, I'm still working on my Baldur's Gate 3 and Smash video, and that will definitely be the next Smash video coming out. Beyond that, I intend to make some larger scale videos about what we might see in the Switch 2 era, and I'm always working on new music with my band Night Fury. If you like punk with some theatricality, check it out, and we're actually working on a song or two that Doom fans might enjoy. Anyway, that's all for now. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay in the loop, and as always, thanks for watching.